And for the latest story, sign up to GB News Alerts by scanning the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Now it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, taking you through tomorrow's top stories for the next hour. And I'm joined by military historian Leo Kearse. There he is. And misinformation expert Lewis Schaefer.
I take that as a compliment.
It wasn't meant as one, but
Yeah.
You're welcome. You are a kind of misinformation expert. You're a fact checker.
I make people fact check.
Yeah, similar. You do a good service.
I know. I think what I say, if it's every time that I've been wrong about something, it usually turns out right.
And also, you're not just a fact checker, but you're also a fat checker.
Oh,
every time I see you, tell me I'm fat.
Yeah, because I'm making sure that you're a healthy person, and I'm telling the people out there that they're fat, and by being fat, it gives into the powers that are controlling our lives, and we need to stop being fat.
Yes, you called me fat once. It was incredibly depressing. I had to take therapy, but I did lose a few pounds. So swings and roundabouts. All right, should we crack on and look at the front pages then, this being headliners? So let's start with the Telegraph, and they have Met Chief urged to resign over treatment of Jews. We'll get into that in a sec. The Mail on Sunday, House sale document that could nail Rayner. The Observer, Labour shifts poll tactics to target fearful Tory over 65s. The Sunday Times, end this bloody disgrace. The Sunday Mirror, Cowell, Al Hill rift with Lewis and Sharon. Or is it Louis? I can't remember these days. And the Daily Star Sunday, Psycho Seagull tried to peck off my pecker. I can't believe I've just read that on live TV. But those were the headlines. So let's start with the Telegraph. And the Met Police has apologised for their officer calling a man openly Jewish, and now they've apologised for the apology in some kind of Russian doll's virtue-signalling nightmare.
Yeah, that's right. The Met Chief is urged to resign over treatment of Jews. He's got several families of them in his basement. He's been maltreated. No, he hasn't. He's basically, it's this openly Jewish comment. So a police officer, as we saw in the news report that was just on, police officer stopped a Jewish man who was on the streets of London. Obviously, there are sort of anti-Israel protests going on, so that man was out there just existing on the streets of London, which is apparently a borderline criminal offence now. If you're Jewish, the police officer said he was risking arrest because he was openly Jewish, and that could inflame tensions or whatever. And the police apologised for the use of the term openly Jewish because it's not 1937 Germany. So they apologised for that. But then also in the apology, they did some sort of victim blaming where they said those who were opposed to the protest must know that their presence is provocative and we're increasing the likelihood of an altercation. So, yes, they're basically saying, oh, stay inside, you're not allowed to go in the streets. I mean, ideally, this should be a massive wake-up call to the establishment, as if we haven't had enough massive wake-up calls that we've got mob rule on the streets of London. The police are there to keep the peace. They can't keep the peace. We've got these massive mobs that they fear will attack Jews if they see them.
It is a wake-up call because what it does is it tells people it's not just Israel. They go, it's just Israel, but it's really Jews. But the truth is that two points. This guy was insane. He was insane for going out there. He knew fully well he was risking everything. He's like one of those mice who've been infected by that cat.
Plasmosis thing.
Yes, and where the mice loses the fear of cats.
But I think he was making,
That's a very good example.
Analogy, although it is a kind of victim blaming.
No, it isn't. I'm saying that he's
not mad. He's not, lost control of his senses. He's making a stand. He's saying, look, these streets are for everyone, and they should be for everyone. You should, if you're Jewish. I can't believe I'm having to say this. If you're Jewish, you should be allowed to walk down the street in London.
Lewis, you have to disagree for balance.
I disagree with you because it is provocative,
people don't agree.
That's what he's doing. He's being provocative. Let's say he's not suffering from this mycosis, whatever it is. He's being reckless with his own life to prove a point. Who is he, Josh
even
Howie?
If that's true, it's up, even if that's true, it's up to him. And then if he got attacked, the police will obviously stick the beam. But you can't arrest people to protect them. We have a narco-tyranny now. Innocent people are arrested. The actual baying mob are allowed to do what they want.
Yeah.
And I understand the police were defensive about this. Police tend to stick together. They're under attack a lot. They have low resources. And they've written this awful apology where it's a little bit like, well, it's not really our fault sort of thing. And then they've written a second one going, oh, soz. But the problem is, it's actually impossible for the police because they're just following what the regime wants. That's what they do, right? They follow orders. And if you look at the powers that be, they seem to be pro-Palestine and they seem to run things according to this anarcho-tyranny principle, whether deliberately or due to incompetence.
Yeah.
And the police are just following that, you know.
Yes, and this guy, can I agree with you, Leo? And I agree with you. It's an act of bravery to expose the police because what the police are saying is those Palestinian demonstrators are dangerous.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And honestly, Nazis must be looking at these protests and saying, who does their PR?
Yeah.
Like, you know, if this was a mob of neo-Nazis with the same, you know, presenting the same kind of danger to Jewish people, I think they'd be shut down very quickly.
And lastly, there was just one weird claim that the police made as well. They said that the fact that they're filming it means they know that it's going to kick off. Not necessarily. You could just be filming for any number of reasons. Anyway, that bothered me. But let's move on to The Observer, Lewis.
The Observer, which is what's going on in America. U.S. House vote unblocks aid to the Ukraine. Ukraine. I don't know whether it's the Ukraine or Ukraine.
These days it's Ukraine.
It's Ukraine now.
You can say the if you want to be sort of contrarian.
Because the original name was the Ukraine because it meant the border to the border, and then now it's just called border. So that's an example.
I still say Kiev when I say Kiev. I mean, it sounds silly to me.
And delicious though, Kiev.
Yeah.
Right, chicken Kiev.
Great dish.
Anyway, so what happened is this is they've given 61 million pounds to but the news to the Ukraine to fight the Russians. The weird stuff is the party that is huge against the Russians back in the day.
Yeah.
Is now taking. It hasn't taken Ukraine's side, but they're taking Russia's side.
So Republicans are basically aligning with Putin on a lot of stuff, and it's weird.
Can I just say what the news is so I can feel like I've done my job?
Well, hurry up then.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, what's the news, Lewis?
The news is that Mike Johnson, who's the leader of the House, and the way the House is set up is sort of like the Parliament here, he basically kind of forced this through to let the Ukrainians get money to the detriment of 101 other Republicans who voted for him, and they were against giving the money to the Russians.
But overall, Republicans supported this bill, and overall Republicans support Ukraine and don't support their greatest geopolitical foe, which is the alignment of China and Russia. And it's weird because Trump basically blocked this bill, blocked this money, and people say, oh, the money going to Ukraine. The money doesn't go to Ukraine; it gets spent in America. Basically, when America gives Ukraine mothballed kit, all these old Bradleys and artillery shells that they're not going to use, they have to be reimbursed. They can't just hand it over. But it's not doing any good in America. Give it to Ukraine, where it's going to do some good and preserve Western liberal democracy. But Trump blocked this bill because he wants to make it a sort of wedge issue, and also he wanted to make the border an issue. So when they brought through the bill with money for the border to protect the border, Trump then ordered people to reject this bill so that the border would be left open and so that Trump could campaign on an open border. Trump didn't want the border to be closed.
To be fair, Leo, isn't it also that the Republicans you're saying that are siding with Putin? Isn't it just that they're sick of money going to a war, the foreign war, from their perspective, that they don't think they can even win, and they're just sick of the kind of neocon funding of foreign wars? That's the position on the sort of more isolationist
Yes, exactly.
side.
So it's not like Donald Trump is just saying, I'm going to go in there and win the whole thing, like Nixon had a plan for the Vietnam War. Is that this war cannot be won.
This war will be won.
What do you consider winning?
Well, Putin's already lost because Putin was like, a three-day special military operation. We're going to take Kyiv. So he's lost already. But we need to make sure he loses bigly, to use Trump's phrase.
Well, good debate. We've got to squeeze in the Mail on Sunday because it's attacking Angela Rayner, Leo. That's not why. It's just part of the show format.
So a House sale document that could nail Rayner, the neighbour who called Labour deputy an effing liar, talks to police as we reveal she signed key papers in the two homes. Right, so there's been this ongoing investigation and rumbling dispute as to did Angela Rayner live in this property? She said she lived it. Did she say she lived in it? Was she staying with her husband at his property? Which was her primary residence? And, did she, there are issues around capital gains tax, council tax, and, all these things. And also, the electoral, where she's registered for political reason.
Some of her neighbours don't seem that keen on it, do they? Everything she says, they come out and contradict it immediately. She's blooming lying. It was not like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, they're witnesses, so they're giving their depositions to the police now. So it'll be interesting to see how this lands. Yeah,
but I'm telling you, this story is going to be a big story after the Tories lose the next election, because what the Tories are doing is just they're getting into their in what is it called? An opposition mode.
Yeah.
Just to do it. But the big story in this thing is hairy bikers, healthy recipes, tasty and easy to prep recipe dishes from their new book, which is funny because the guy died very young.
Can we quickly fit in the Daily Star, Lewis?
Daily Star.
You want to cover this seagull thing, apparently.
Seagull
I don't know why.
Psycho Seagull. I love the Daily Star. I wish I read it. But the Psycho Seagull.
I wish you read any of the stories.
The Psycho Seagull. I don't have to read the stories, but I got two of you on. This is why you're my favorite people on.
Colour, personality.
Yeah. I'm the lubricant between
personality
the two
and non sequiturs. Go on then.
Psycho Seagull tried to peck off my pecker. Naturist, which is another word for nudist, flees feathered terrace. Some bird was trying to pick at his. I don't even know what word I can use. We're on the TV. What word can I use?
Genitalia.
Genitalia. Yeah. Can you say the W-I-L?
No.
I've heard people sound here, but it's better not to, because your job's in jeopardy all the time.
Maybe when I say it.
When you say it, it sounds better. Lee, we don't have any time, but do you want to comment on this desperately?
Not really.
No, fair enough. That's the front pages dealt with then. But coming up, why drones are like toys, and Rishi Sunak actually does something good for once. See you soon.
I'm Martin Daubney. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
SUV drivers in Oxford will face higher parking charges. Proposals tabled by the local Green Party or passed by the City Council. The motion argues that heavier cars like SUVs cause more damage to roads, are more likely to seriously injure or kill pedestrians, and cause more illnesses due to pollution. However, the Alliance of British Drivers has condemned the plan as absolutely outrageous. Well, let's get the thoughts now of the legendary motoring journalist, Quentin Wilson. Quentin, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure. We hear a lot about the war on motorists, this time targeting SUVs because of their weight, and the charges could be astronomical. This idea first started in Paris. Now it's coming to Oxford. Can you tell us a bit about how it would work?
OK, so the idea is that the charges will penalise people who drive heavier SUVs, and I guess by implication electric cars, although Oxford Council haven't said exactly what they're going to do with EVs. But this is all based around this notion of SUVs being heavier than passenger cars, therefore wearing out the roads more. Now, there was a study, I've got it here in front of me, from the University of Edinburgh in 2022 that said real-world tests found that overwhelmingly the wear is caused by large vehicles, buses, heavy good vehicles. Road wear from cars and motorcycles is so low that this is immaterial. Now, obviously, driving around a medieval city like Oxford in an SUV isn't the brightest thing in the world to do. But the idea that we should penalise the owners of these cars based on imperfect science that's been read on social media, I think is completely wrong.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Nick Dixon, still here with Headliners legends Leo Kearse. Look at him, all happy. And Lewis Schaefer.
Yeah.
He's not even watching.
No, I'm
he's on his phone.
No, I'm adjusting.
Looking up something about meat.
No, I'm adjusting my tie. Someone said on the thing.
Tie. Narcissist.
On Twitter, they said, no, I'm
so
just
sorry.
for the audience.
He's being deported soon. Let's do the Mail on Sunday. And Iran claims the drones that hit their country were more like toys. I think the message is, be careful about inviting Iran to any children's birthday party.
Yeah, so Iran's foreign minister says that the drones that hit Iran were more like toys and claims they did not come from Israel. We've had some sort of tit-for-tat drones and rockets being fired from Iran to Israel and then Israel to Iran. But the good news is that this is a sort of face-saving de-escalation. So the Iranian foreign minister is saying, well, these came from inside Iran. They didn't come from Israel. They're just tiny little things. So we don't need to retaliate. So this is a sort of way to wind down the conflict without sort of losing face, because neither side wants war, although they're both sort of pressured. Like Netanyahu is sort of pressured by hardliners that he's beholden to in the Knesset, or whatever it's called. And similarly, in Iran, you know, you've got a lot of mad mullahs who hate Israel and want to fire all their weapons at Israel. So, yeah, this is a bit of politicking to just de-escalate the situation.
Yeah, but you know what? It's so embarrassing, basically, because I think the people of Iran know that, you know, when they make this announcement, they were just like toys. That they know Israel isn't messing around. All they have to do is look at the Gaza, where Israel just completely cleared the entire land there.
Yeah. What's interesting is Israel's sort of not contradicted it either. They're sort of playing along with it, it seems like. Well, you know what it reminds me of most? The film 13 Days, because I get everything from movies and don't read anything. But in that film, it's about the Cuban Missile Crisis. And tensions are such that the US are doing a reconnaissance mission over Cuba, and the sort of president's assistant calls up and just says, whatever happens, just you didn't get shot at. He's like, what? He's like, well, I'll probably get shot at. He's like, no, you don't understand. You didn't get shot at. Tell them it was... And he tells them it was bird strike. He gets shot at. He tells them it was sparrows to avoid an escalation into a nuclear war.
Yeah.
Just the same here. They're going, oh, this was nothing. They were toys. It was nothing.
Yeah, it's like at school where you sort of get your mates to hold you back before you try and fight the other person.
Yeah,
So
I would have fought him.
Yeah.
But is there a danger Israel will take this as kind of emasculating and just, you know, smash them anyway because they're like, hang on, they weren't toys. Right, here come our proper ones.
Yeah.
Do you think that would happen, or is it,
no.
Or is it not done like that?
No, because Israel, I think they're kind of... They're wrong in the way they've done the Gaza war. Because what they've done in Gaza...
Like you can speak your mind without Josh here.
I can. Well, I would tell... Is that basically what Israel did was, we're going to destroy their shit. Oh, sorry.
Ship, that was fine.
Yeah, they've got
Destroy their ship.
Destroy their ships.
It's not naval anymore, Lewis.
We're going to... I'm getting too confident on the show. That
was the case long ago.
Yeah.
Day one.
Do you need to hear this? What's happened?
No. We can move on if you want.
What's happened is Israel, because the Jews in Israel care about stuff. They care about books and Bibles and history and buildings. Jews love buildings, and they think that
not the ones in Gaza.
Yeah, right. But they think the Palestinians in Gaza care about stuff the way they care about stuff. So what are we going to do to punish them? We're going to destroy their stuff, destroy their buildings.
Well, it's a failed military. Israel's kind of failed because Hamas are still there. They've killed maybe half of Hamas?
Because Hamas doesn't care. Yeah. Hamas doesn't care if they die. Hamas doesn't care if the buildings are destroyed. They don't care.
And you can't
it's
wipe
not realistic, is it, to wipe out Hamas and then someone else just replaces it anyway? Like
exactly.
ISIS.
You can't fight terrorism in that way. Not all the time. I mean, you can sometimes, but
right.
Yeah.
OK, well, let's move on before we get any more trouble. I just want to apologise for Lewis's maritime reference. Let's do the Mail on Sunday. And Tenerife is protesting against tourism. I suppose I'll just have to rely on their extensive manufacturing industry.
Yeah. So there's fury.
This is me. Who is it here with me?
It's got my name at the top.
Does it have your name at the top?
Yeah, Leo. Sorry, I'm not, mate. You're not allowed to speak anymore.
You can do it if you want.
No, I didn't read it.
Go on, Leo. You probably know more about it.
There's fury on the streets of Tenerife. More than 50,000 people join a protest against tourism, waving "You enjoy, we suffer" placards as they call for a freeze on holidaymakers to save the Canary Islands as locals fight poverty and housing shortages. So the campaigners are claiming that the huge influx of tourists, there's apparently 14 million tourists A year to the Canary Islands, that's loads. So they claim that it causes major environmental damage, you know, all those deck chairs getting folded and unfolded. It drives down wages. I'm not sure how it drives down. I'm not sure what their economic rationale for that is. Oh, you bring a lot of money into an area and it drives down wages. That doesn't really make sense. And
it squeezes them out of affordable housing.
I can understand that,
I sympathise. My thing is, let's everyone just stop going everywhere, because we've got too much immigration. They don't want us there. Why does everyone stop going anywhere? And because that all the Klaus Schwab sort of the net zero people like that too much, we should just use loads of heating and emissions, but just don't go anywhere for 5 years.
But I mean, this isn't quite like immigration, because the people go home after 2 weeks.
There is that. But then another lot just come in. And they're all drinking lager and stealing their jobs. Or I'm not sure how it works. But I get this because I'm from the lakes, right? And there's always a tension between we need tourists for money versus who are these off-comers we despise.
Yeah.
Lewis.
Well, I can't even think about Tenerife or the Canary Islands without having some kind of an emotional trauma. I was there with my wife and 2 kids after we got divorced.
And 2 kids, but are they your kids or just your
You know
wife?
what? I haven't done the DNA test.
But it's a great place, isn't it?
It is a pretty good place. They filmed Planet of the Apes on the island that I was on.
Oh, really?
I think it was La Palma. Yeah, it's a brilliant place.
Yeah.
You know what it is? At least I can understand. You can't have everything, basically, and they're human beings. They're horrible people. They're humans.
I always went to Lanzarote, so I feel guilt-free. Yeah. It's only Tenerife, that's the problem. Yeah. All right, smash that one. Let's do the I weekend. And Rishi Sunak has been accused of setting us back on net zero, so he can't be all bad, Lewis.
Well, you know what? I couldn't even read the thing because normally I know people think, oh, he doesn't read the stories. I read most of the story. It's basically the guy who is this Chris Stark is head of Climate Watchdog, and he says the UK is seen around the world as being less ambitious about climate change. And as we all know, it's complete bogus, this whole climate change. So whatever Rishi Sunak wants to do to stop it.
And for balance, Leo, do you believe he can?
Well, I think you know, Rishi's walking back some of the climate change pledges, because the trouble with political pledges is they're made in a sort of haze of idealism. Yeah. And it's like, oh, we're going to do away with all cars and all roads and all trees and telegraph poles and tarmac and everything. And, you know, we'll do it in 3 months. And it's like, well, and then you get mugged by reality. So the reality is that, you know, electric car take-up is really tailed off because they just don't suit everybody. If you need to drive long distances, like I was gigging in Portsmouth and Bournemouth last night, so I had to drive down to both of them and then drive home. So I couldn't do that in an electric car because it would run out of electricity somewhere between Portsmouth and Bournemouth and require 8 hours to charge.
You don't want to be there. And
so,
isn't there a lack of charging stations as well?
There's a lot. We don't have the infrastructure, and you know, we should really just be allowing the market to do it instead of across Europe. They're sinking €1 trillion into pushing net zero, but really what it's doing is sort of instituting this sort of authoritarian, you know, soft communism that controls every aspect of people's lives. So, like 15-minute cities, for example, where you get fined if you drive out of your area too many times. And
I've always thought this is one of the few things Sunak's right on. Rolling back net zero, you know, in a more sensible way, saying we're still going to do it, which I don't agree with anyway, but we're still going to do it, but more moderately, you know, not impoverish people. Even Tony Blair is against this stuff because China just constantly opening coal plants every day, and we're going, oh no, emissions. It's all nonsense. Even Blair says, look, we have tiny emissions anyway. We should focus on financial services. We can help the developing world with that kind of thing. That's where we're strong. We're apparently the second in the world for professional and financial services. But we're rubbish on this because we're small.
But why should we, as Britons, help the entire world? Screw those people. So we shouldn't help them. And the reason why our carbon rates are going down is because we're outsourcing all the manufacturing. All the dirty stuff is being offshore. So it's like hypocrisy. The whole thing is a lie. It's a scam.
And also, we've got loads of mountains and it's cold. So climate change, where it gets warmer and the sea levels rise, is going to be good for us. And also, people are always talking about the environment. If the sea levels rise, that's more environment for fishes.
Great point. Pro-fish, that's what we are here. For balance, that was nonsense. Let's do the I weekend. And Labour and Tory mayors have united against scrapping FA Cup replays. Oh, good, another area where the Tories and Labour have the exact same policy, Leo.
Yeah, so Labour Mayor Andy Burnham and his Tory counterpart Ben Hoochin have united against controversial plans to scrap FA Cup replays. So this is the FA is blaming the new format of the Champions League, which will cause changes to the calendar. So it's doing away with these replays, but it's feared the lack of replays will be hugely damaging for clubs lower down the football pyramid, particularly those outside the Football League. So you get these small clubs playing big clubs and they make lots of money from it. I've got no idea what a replay is, to be honest.
It's where they play another match after the first match to decide the tie.
Why would they do that?
Because if there was a tie, and football is one of those great games where you can actually play an entire game and no one wins, and so instead of going to penalties, they play another match.
But it's not even if it's a draw. It's just to have it at one ground then the other, so it's fair.
Oh, are they doing it that way?
But what the problem is? So the problem is the small clubs make all the money because Man United come to their little town, suddenly they get massive sales. But they could maybe. I was thinking they could have a rule. I haven't checked if this makes sense, where you just have it just in the smaller clubs' backyard and you don't have it at the bigger club. That could be maybe a way. Probably wouldn't work with how the tournament works.
And they wouldn't make enough money.
No,
it wouldn't be worth it because at least when Manchester plays, they fill up the stadium. And I think this is one of the best things about football: localization. No centralization. It's local. You got local, small little teams playing bigger teams. And this FA Cup thing, people don't understand how great British football is. And it is the best sport.
I don't understand.
It is, but I've stopped watching the because they're kneeling, and I don't have time, and they've started kneeling again.
Yeah, that's all I know them for. They're like They're like Church of England vicars. The amount of kneeling and rainbows.
Ridiculous. But the basic problem is the Premier League, as I'm saying, we play far too many games already. It's ridiculous. We're all injured all the time. The lower league clubs are saying this is our one chance to get some money. So that's the problem, and that's why it's all kicking off. But anyway. Football stories, well, these lot don't really follow football, so we'll end there and we'll do another part in a minute. That is part two in the bag, but coming up, Joe Biden sets back women's rights, Oxford University struggles with diversity of thought, and Chinese swimmers accidentally take performance-enhancing drugs. Accidentally. See you in a minute.
Good evening. Welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. High pressure is sticking around through the rest of the weekend, but we will start to see some rain arriving in the north. But it is that area of high pressure that will be dominating our weather, so bringing us some more settled conditions. However, these weather fronts out to the north will bring us a bit more in the way of rain as we head through Sunday and into the new week. Plenty of cloud around through the rest of this evening, spilling its way southwards across much of England and into parts of Wales into the early hours of the morning. But southeastern parts of England, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland probably holding on to some clearer skies and turning chilly here, perhaps some frost in places. But under all that cloud, generally not quite as cold, although the high single figures are possible. So a bit of a cloudier start, particularly for eastern parts of Scotland, some outbreaks of rain spilling their way southwards through Sunday morning. But eastern parts of England, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland still holding on to some of that sunshine. Perhaps one or two showers across the very far southeast, but it should be staying dry for most places, away from that cloud and rain. Under that cloud and rain, still feeling quite chilly. We're struggling to reach into the double figures across some North Sea coast, but further south, highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Monday does start a little bit cloudier for most of us, outbreaks of rain spreading their way southwards across much of the UK through Monday, perhaps southeastern parts of England holding on to a bit of sunshine through the afternoon and feeling warm in that sunshine but much chillier elsewhere. Further showers through Tuesday and Wednesday, but those temperatures slowly starting to return closer to average as we head through the second half of the week.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's crack on with the Sunday Telegraph. And Joe Biden's new law change has been accused of undoing decades of women's rights. But is there also a downside there?
It's like a joke like the other one.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to learn how to write a joke soon. One of these years.
Yeah.
Next 50 years.
When you're 70.
That's not that far away, actually. Was that a joke?
Well, you've had a whole career in comedy, you've never known how to write a joke.
It takes a while to learn. That's what the thing they don't understand. Anyway, Biden undoing decades of women's rights with changes to Title IX law. It's called Title IX law. And that's the law that said there has to be equality in American universities. And if you don't have equality, the American government doesn't give you money. So basically, this is how the American government has bought off the universities, because the government is not like here where the government just gives the money to the universities. In America, they have to do things, and they have to do the whip, otherwise they don't get the money. And what he said was, so Biden is changing to new rules to protect transgender people from this title thing, saying you've got to protect the transes.
Yeah, I'm shocked by this because they're so far left. I mean, we've sort of done really well on this issue in Britain, and the Democrats are just way out there, way to the left. It's not even a vote winner, surely, is Leo. What are they doing?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think people across America, I mean, yeah, there's going to be a few blue-haired, freakish communists that want this, but everybody else is going to be like, this is ridiculous, because they're saying, oh, they want to stop gender discrimination in schools and colleges, which sounds really nice. Yeah. Sounds really cuddly. It's like, oh, you're going to stop gender discrimination. It's like, what they mean is, we're going to allow women like me to compete in the sports and women like me into the changing rooms and locker rooms and all the rest of it, which is bad just because, you know, all right, I say I'm a woman, but I think we all know. Like,
You're a woman.
I am a real. I'm one of the most stunning and brave women. You know you're ugly if the Guardian say you're stunning and brave. But yeah, it's an unfair advantage. You know, women like me have an unfair advantage in women's sports because we're bigger and we're men, and it also takes a place from a real woman. I mean, a woman who's a woman.
I find this so crazy. Everyone said, oh, Biden, it's the adults back in the room. I knew it wouldn't be. I said, it's going to be terrible. He's captured by, it used to be called the squad. Now that's sort of faded away, but still seems to be captured by the far left element of the party. People like Victor Davis Hanson have said, look, they don't even have a majority in the country because of their far left policies. This is why they need all these illegal to vote for them.
I think it's a myth that they just have a small little section of the Democratic Party. I think the Democratic Party actually believes this stuff. They do. They actually, because what you've said was extremely hurtful to women who look like you.
Like me, I'm a trans woman.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying you're not a real woman.
No, I'm a real. I'm the realest of women. I'm the most stunning and brave of all women.
Are you a trans woman?
I'm a trans woman.
No, you were always a woman.
He hasn't done anything medically yet, but he says he is.
So how can he say? But you never did anything because you were born a woman. You were a woman.
I never did anything. Look, go on my Twitter profile. Look at my pronouns. And tell me I never did anything. I've changed my pronouns.
Then why are you calling yourself a trans woman? Trans means that you're transing.
I was assigned male at birth, Lewis.
Yeah, so why don't you leave out the trans business?
Got really close to aggressive there. That was weird.
Yeah,
they didn't capture that on camera. We got very close to you.
Because, we're on TV, so I know he can't hit me. I know women like him could be very
Probably enough on that story. Let's do the Sunday Telegraph. And the head of Oxford University's diversity unit is apparently not too big on diversity of thought.
Yeah, absolutely. So Oxford University has allowed political diversity to wither. This is Oxford Dons have accused the university of allowing political diversity to wither away after its head of equality celebrated the Belgian police's attempt to shut down a Conservative conference. And obviously they were acting on the will of the left-wing mayor. So yeah, this is Vernal Scott, who led Oxford's Equality and Diversity Unit. He tweeted that I applaud the mayor and police of Brussels for their decision to close down this conference.
I applaud the mayor of Brussels.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, this conference, it wasn't raving lunatics. This was mainstream politicians, like a former Home Secretary, the current leader of Hungary. These are
them are my mates. I mean, I was at the conference last year. The idea that NatCon is radical. Suella Braverman, not a radical person, mainstream politician, as you say, absolutely absurd.
Well, it's like you say, it's team world against. Any time you use the word nation, it's the opposite of team world, and they're against team world. And if you think there's just a few of these people out there, half the population is
It was the action part, sort of action equivalent of saying the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
It was like, let's just shut it down, please. And everyone's like, no, we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to do it more subtly.
Yeah,
this guy was just like, yeah, brilliant. But at least Oxford University have, let's be very clear, they've said this is terrible. And Toby Young has commented and said that I suggest his employers, he reads his employer's own free speech policy, which is extremely good. And University of Oxford has said that it doesn't represent their views. They have a robust freedom of speech policy. So this guy was just going rogue. Yeah. Just sort of mouthing up. What is this guy? Why is he there?
Well, he thinks, because he's surrounded by people at the university who all think the same way. Yeah. You know, it's the only acceptable opinion to have in many circles. So, you know, he thinks, he doesn't know that what he's saying, it's like, you know, a German, you know, somebody in the Nazi apparatus in 1930s Germany wouldn't know necessarily that what they were doing
was frowned upon.
Was frowned upon, would be seen because they're surrounded by people who are telling them to do it. Right. So, and we know whenever you see the words diversity and inclusion, it means the absolute opposite. Diversity means absolute rigidity of thought and opinion.
No.
And inclusion means you've got to exclude anybody who thinks different.
That. No, I think diversity does mean a different thing to this guy. In his context, diversity is black, gay, trans, you know, disabled.
If they have the right opinion.
Right, and having the right opinion. But it doesn't include people like you, Leo.
Yeah. That's very clear.
Even though I'm trans.
We've got to move on, but my question is, why does Oxford University need an equality and diversity unit anyway?
Yeah.
I mean,
why are they so racist in the first place?
Great question, and it's a joke just so we don't get off content. That's The Observer, and a story about the term excited delirium, which is how I describe Lewis Schaefer's appearance on this show every time, Lewis.
You know what? I'm so happy to be on TV. I've never been on TV before.
Yes,
I'm waiting.
Try and hide it a bit better.
I know. I'm waiting to be fired. Please don't fire me, please. Anyway, please don't fire me. Anyway,
the viewers actually can't fire you. It's not a democracy like that.
Why can't? Yeah, they can. They can make me.
Well, they can just write in.
They can write in.
I wouldn't give them ideas.
I did. That was wrong. I'm not.
GBNews at GBNews. What is it? I don't even know the address. Just put subject heading Lewis Schaefer.
Say, please don't fire Lewis Schaefer. And the rumours.
Okay.
Anyway.
Should we read the headline?
Let me speak here. Yeah. Outdated and offensive. Police in England and Wales barred from blaming restraint deaths on something called excited delirium. And this actually comes from America, and the term is used when a person who's being killed doesn't quite want to die, and they might be acting out, like maybe trying to get up, maybe saying I can't breathe, or you're choking me. So the Independent Office for Police Conduct said, stop using that word. It's not going to be on any forms. So if you say, why did they die? You can't say they died because they got all excited.
Yeah. And it was used in the George Floyd case, so now it has to be banned. Go on, Leo.
Yeah, it does sound like a sort of Victorian term that you'd use to describe a housewife who'd finally had enough or something.
Excessive nerves. Yeah, he died of nerves.
And it originated in Miami in the 1980s after 32 black women who worked as sex workers were found dead, naked from the waist down, with no obvious injuries. So a medical examiner concluded they must have died from cocaine and sex, a phenomenon he termed excited delirium. But if cocaine and sex killed people, we'd have no Tory party.
Great point. That's a good point. It's hard to argue. Yes, I mean, they've changed it to acute behavioural disturbance. Apparently, even that is frowned upon. That's going to go soon. But for now, they're keeping it. Can't think of another ridiculous...
Well, this whole thing is saying, that term is basically saying that the dead were asking for it. And I think that's what made it. That's what made it so...
I'm reminded of the old Chris Rock bit. Whatever happened to crazy? Anyway, let's do The Independent. And prisons are struggling to hire and retain staff, but luckily, there's still no shortage of criminals, Leo.
So revealed the £16.2 million tax and hotel bill to send prison staff around the country to plug gaps. So they're not going around, they're not working as plasterers and, you know, it sounds like they've got polyfiller. They're filling gaps in the prison service. The government's having to spend millions of pounds to send prison workers miles away from home because some prisoners, some prisons don't have enough staff. And this practice has soared by nearly 350% in the space of just 4 years. And several prisons are now entirely dependent on borrowed staff from other prisons that are sent there. And this can't be cost effective. To spend so much money, they're probably getting overtime rates and getting sent in a taxi and staying in a hotel. There's got to be more effective way to run a prison service.
Yeah, it's called detached duty, which is how Lewis approaches this show. But go on, Lewis.
The point is like every point in this country, they don't pay people enough. And if they pay, they even said it themselves, they're having staffing difficulties in the face of a more competitive local employment market, which means they're not paying enough and the work is horrible. So that's what they do in this country. They write tons and tons of articles about how bad workers the British people are. And I find that offensive.
Thank you. Thanks for sticking up for the British people. All right, let's quickly do the Sunday Times. And Chinese swimmers have tragically had their food tainted by drugs that make them really good at swimming, Lewis.
Yeah, well, that's
That's unlucky.
That's what I told the police, too. It's Chinese swimmers, and they're just finding this out. This had to do with the 1921 Olympics, where there were 23 Chinese swimmers who were tested positive for having this trimethylsomething-adine, a powerful heart drug. Maybe they had heart problems or something. Anyway, dimetazidine, right? And they were actually tested positive, but the WADA did nothing about it, which is the World Anti-Doping Administration.
That sounds like you trying to say water.
WADA, yeah.
That's quite a good joke. Go on.
Yeah. Well, apparently this drug, trimetazidine or whatever it's called, is widely used due to how quickly it passes through the body. So the fact that they're caught with it in their body, or it was on the kitchen worktops or something, that's kind of worrying. But I don't know why they can't, when they catch athletes who've used performance-enhancing drugs, can't they balance out with performance-reducing drugs? Like make them do, I don't know, like some buckets, and then they've got to run the race.
Yeah, good idea. It's very suspicious, and it's a bit like the dodgy beef in the Mexican boxers eat this beef, but it's got sort of these drugs, performance-enhancing drugs, and it's kind of known as a thing in boxing.
Right.
So this sounds like they've eaten, accidentally in our food, and oops, we won all the gold medals.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious. That's all I'm saying.
But the interesting thing is that some, like you say, drugs that hurt the thing, but a lot of drugs don't do anything. They did tests on EPO, which is the drug that the bicyclists.
It makes you have more red blood cells.
Supposedly it does, but then they've done tests on it. It has no effect whatsoever.
Okay. Well, for balance, I have to say that's probably not true. All right, that is part 3, brutally murdered. But coming up in the final section, cannabis smokers have a litter festival, the McDonald's billboard that smells like fries, and the volcano that spews out gold. See you in a minute.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 p.m.
So J. Cole, who is a rapper, says he felt terrible after releasing a song aimed at fellow rapper Kendrick Lamar and vowed to pull the track off streaming services. He said, "I ain't gonna lie to y'all. The past 2 days felt terrible," he told an audience at the Dreamville Festival in North Carolina. "I damn near had a relapse," he said.
There's a lot of young people, especially, that would look at that and they will take it not just as entertainment.
It doesn't happen in any other form of art that I can think of. This is not happening in country music, is it?
Well, it's the same. It's the same problem in both cases, isn't it? Who's doing the regulating? And surely it's each case on its merits, isn't it? You don't just ban a genre.
Why is there such a lot of hatred for a man who usually would have trash talked back? To stand up and say, this doesn't sit well with me and I love this guy. If we look at, I think his name was Cody Fisher, the semi-professional footballer who died in a club because someone stabbed him. Yeah. Now, he was stabbed because he stepped on someone's trainers. This is the level of ego we're seeing from a lot of young men who don't have any output of being able to channel that energy, and a lot of it is stemming from cultures like football, hip-hop, these sorts of things. So I'm just saying it's refreshing to see a man who could have easily wiped the floor with his lyrics say, I don't have to,
That is interesting, isn't it? Because I took this into the wrong direction. It's not about pointing out the areas of concern. Actually, this story is saying, look, music and art can be giving you an example of how to live a slightly better life.
That's free speech. Saying, sorry. I'm sorry, I choose not to fight back because I love you. It may look like a wimpy thing to do, but it's still free speech.
You know what? I love you, Paul. Sorry about earlier.
I think the most exciting bit for me is talking to people.
People who I think are ignored often by the major news channels. We're going to give news they want to hear. There's a voice there that needs to be heard. I think there's a chance here for a diversity of opinion to be expressed, which you don't find elsewhere. It's really exciting.
We don't hold back. We're free to say how decisions that are taken here
affect us all around the country. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people. To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's crack on with the Mail on Sunday, if it's OK with Lewis. And cannabis smokers have gathered in some sort of degenerate celebration, but at least they managed to leave the house for once, Leo.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a bit biased on this.
So crowds of cannabis smokers lit up in full view of the police at the annual 420 rally in Hyde Park today to demand that the illegal drug is decriminalised. And the police did nothing because the system wants people to smoke lots of marijuana, because when people smoke marijuana, they become compliant and they lose faith in themselves and they don't leave the house and they become the ideal...
They eat Doritos.
Yeah, they become the ideal play for some sort of authoritarian communist system like we're being handed to us. So really what you shouldn't do, you shouldn't smoke weed. You should, I don't know, there are drugs that make you angry and you should take them instead.
Yeah, I
They do have a lot of conspiracy theories, though, so they don't go along with that much, but they don't actually do anything
They don't do anything about the conspiracy theories.
Sorry, Lou.
I thought this had to do with the celebration of Hitler's birthday on April 20th. That's his story.
Really, probably not celebrated in Hyde Park.
I don't celebrate it. But I had an ex-girlfriend whose birthday was this day. I mean, it is true. It says the police were there. There was they were overwhelmed with police. They were used enforcement where proportionate and necessary. Don't park is smoking pot. You don't think that that's big enough? Yeah. Not that I'm in favour of that.
I looked at pictures, there was just litter everywhere. And it's not just me saying this because I'm a sort of, puritanical anti-drug person, which I am, but there happens to be litter and food just strewn around. It's not good. The country's just declining, isn't it, in all sorts of ways?
It absolutely is. Yeah, I used to, in my misspent youth, I smoked weed. I mean, there's not much to do in southwest Scotland. So, yeah, we did that. But, this feels like... Now it's become a thing that,
normies do.
Normies do.
It's legal almost.
Yeah.
It's not no fun in that. Not smoking weed is the new smoking weed.
Exactly.
Let's do the Daily Star Sunday. And a new McDonald's billboard smells just like fries, which kind of makes me wonder if they've been making their fries out of billboard all along, Lou.
Well, they used to use, whatchamacallit? They used to use...
Toxoplasma?
No, they used to use beef fat, and then they had to switch it. So it does smell amazing, and this is a fantastic advertising because this is in the Netherlands. It's a billboard that pumps out the scent of McDonald's fries, and it doesn't even have a name on it. You can't even call it a billboard. It's just like a pollution device that's like smoking.
Smell board.
But has it got the sign on it as well?
It has nothing.
There's nothing there.
There's nothing there to tell the people this is the smell of chips.
So you just walk past and you smell.
You smell it, you get the hunger, and
that
you
think...
think...
That must be hell for you, Lewis. You haven't eaten a carb since '89.
Well, you know what? I do cheat. But...
no, there is a billboard, it says in the article.
No, it isn't. Movable billboard. It says there's nothing written on it.
Mark Dolan's the only person that could resist this in the UK.
There's a voiceover on the billboard saying...
Yeah, but nothing written on the thing.
McDonald's, you know it when you smell it.
It speaks, but it speaks, but we don't know what's written on it.
Right.
It's a big red thing. It's a big red thing.
We should have checked that. But the point is, it's a new kind of advertising, because as they say here, you can look away, but you can't smell away.
That's a good point, unless you hold your breath. I think the only way to defeat our corporate overlords is to hold your breath forever.
Yeah, just give up on oxygen.
You know what? This is. It must be pointed out. This is death food. I mean, the hamburgers, the actual burgers are good, but everything else you just can't eat.
And also, they don't smell good. The fries don't smell good. They all smell kind of cheap and nasty.
I want McDonald's basically every day, but I'd never go. Discipline. Still.
And you should not go to McDonald's because they don't advertise on GB News, which is stopping Louis Schaefer from getting a contract.
Can we legally say any of that? I don't know. We don't have an opinion on it. Let's do the Sunday Mirror now before Lewis gets us all in trouble with a good idea for anyone trying to get rid of their old bombshells, Leo.
Yeah, so a bomb squad seals off a town after an ammunition shell was donated to a charity shop. So this is the quaint market town of Wem in Shropshire. And they had to seal off part of the town centre after the device was discovered by staff in a bag of donations at the Severn Hospice store. And it was a 10-inch 10-inch shell. They had to move it to a car park and then put up a 30-metre cordon and then do a sort of controlled explosion. And I mean, it showed. I mean, you whenever read stories like this,
they didn't do an explosion.
They said, yeah, the team then carried out a controlled explosion following the security alert.
Yeah, but they didn't bring them. They didn't do the thing there.
Literally says it there. An explosive ordnance disposable.
They blew it up in a 30-metre. That's 90 feet. They didn't do that. They took it somewhere else.
Yeah, they took it to a nearby car park.
This is so important that we get the details on this. How many feet away?
I just want Leo to get the stories wrong because he's always making me look bad.
I know you get some right, but you got him on weapons, which is his whole world.
Oh yeah,
this is the wrong one to pick, honestly. Well, you may as well got him on Iron Brew and smack. Go on.
But he's pointing at them. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I always used to think, some from the Second World War, it's not going to blow up now, but then it turns out they do. They're still being used by Putin in Ukraine.
We've got 1 minute. Do you want to carry on this or do the volcano?
Let's do the volcano.
OK, let's do the Sunday Mirror. And a volcano has been spewing out gold like some kind of very dangerous Super Mario game, Lewis.
Yeah, this is Mount Erebus, which is 12,400 feet high in Antarctica. Did you know there was volcanoes in Antarctica? I didn't know, which is why this is news. Did you know there was gold that could be spewed out? I imagine there could be because whatever's underneath gets spewed out.
Yeah.
And gold is immutable. Right? It
can't be created or destroyed.
It can't be. It can't be boiled down into something else. It's got to stay the way it is. That's why. Yeah. And who knows what planet it comes from, Velikovsky.
Risky to try and get the gold, though, from a spewing volcano. Leo, we've got 7 seconds. Anything on this?
No, but, I mean, it's quite cool that gold is coming out of a volcano, I suppose. That's the worst comment.
Nailed it. That was great stuff. The rest of the show was good. All right, the show is pretty much over, so let's have another quick look at Sunday's front pages. So the Sunday Telegraph has Met Chief urged to resign over treatment of Jews. The Mail on Sunday, House sale document that could nail Rayner. The Observer goes with Labour shifts poll tactics to target fearful Tory over 65s. The Sunday Times has end this bloody disgrace. The Sunday Mirror, Cowell, I'll heal rift with Lewis and Sharon. No idea what that's about and don't really care. And the Daily Star Sunday, Psycho Seagull tried to peck off my pecker, which we covered in detail earlier. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks to Leo and Lewis. Headlines is back tomorrow at 11 p.m. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, then stay tuned for breakfast. But for now, it's good night or good morning and God bless.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. High pressure is sticking around through the rest of the weekend, but we will start to see some rain arriving in the north. But it is that area of high pressure that will be dominating our weather, so bringing us some more settled conditions. However, these weather fronts out to the north will bring us a bit more in the way of rain as we head through Sunday and into the new week. Plenty of cloud around through the rest of this evening, spilling its way southwards across much of England and into parts of Wales into the early hours of the morning. But southeastern parts of England, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland probably holding on to some clearer skies and turning chilly here, perhaps some frost in places. But under all that cloud, generally not quite as cold, although the high single figures are possible. So a bit of a cloudier start, particularly for eastern parts of Scotland. Some outbreaks of rain spilling their way southwards through Sunday morning. But eastern parts of England, Northern Ireland, Western Scotland still holding on to some of that sunshine. Perhaps 1 or 2 showers across the very far southeast, but it should be staying dry for most places away from that cloud and rain. Under that cloud and rain, still feeling quite chilly. We're struggling to reach into the double figures across some North Sea coast, but further south, highs of 14 or 15 degrees. Monday does start a little bit cloudier for most of us. Outbreaks of rain spreading their way southwards across much of the UK through Monday. Perhaps southeastern parts of England holding on to a bit of sunshine through the afternoon. And feeling warm in that sunshine, but much chillier elsewhere. Further showers through Tuesday and Wednesday, but those temperatures slowly starting to return closer to average as we head through the second half of the week.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Don't miss your chance to win our biggest prize so far. There's an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Plus, courtesy of Variety Cruises, a bespoke 7-night small boat cruise for 2 worth £10,000. With flights, meals, excursions and drinks included, your next holiday could be on us. Choose any one of their 2025 Greek adventures and find your home at sea. We'll also send you packing with these luxury travel gifts. For another chance to win a prize worth over £20,000, text prize to 63232. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or post your name and number to GB04 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 5 p.m. on the 26th of April. Full terms and privacy notice at gbnews.com/win. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
2024, a battleground year.
The year the nation decides.
As the parties gear up their campaigns for the next general election.
Who will be left standing when the British people make one of the biggest decisions of their lives?
Who will rise?
And who will fall?
Let's find out together.
For every moment, the highs, the lows, the twists and turns.
We'll be with you for every step of this journey.
In 2024, GB News is Britain's election channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'd much rather hear what you have to say. So send in your opinions to gbviews@gbnews.com. Keep them clean, and you never know, I might read them out. With my panel here on Jubes & Co, we debate, we get stuck into the issues of the day on a show where all views are welcome, especially yours. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope.
And I'm Gloria Di Piero, bringing you
PMQ's live here on GB News.
Whenever Parliament is in session on a Wednesday at midday, we'll bring you live coverage of Prime Minister's questions. We'll be asking our viewers and listeners to submit the questions that they would like to put to the Prime Minister, and we'll put that to our panel of top politicians in our Westminster studio.
That's PMQ's live here on GB News, Britain's election channel.